In the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, abortion has emerged as a key issue for Democratic voters months from the midterms. Now, according to CBS News polling, 77% of Democratic voters say abortion is, quote, very important, unquote, for their vote for Congress. That polling comes as the Democratic candidate who ran heavily on the abortion issue, Pat Ryan, beat Republican Mark Molinaro in a New York special election last week. It is a race that is seen as a potential bellwether for Democrats nationwide. For more on this, Tim Persico joins us. He is the executive director of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and that means as executive director, he's really deeply involved in day-to-day nuts and bolts of the Democrats' pursuit of and preservation, if they can achieve it, their House majority. Tim, it's great to see you. As I read it, recently, you had a closed-door session with Democrats, and you said, here's the data, and if the election were held today, we would lose our majority. Is that still true? And if so, how do you reverse that data?
Well, thank you for having me. It was a few months ago, I think, we had that conversation. And since that time, the landscape has shifted dramatically in favor of the Democrats. I think that while it's certainly not true that we are in the same position we were then, I think we have a lot of work to do. But we are certainly in a better position today electorally than we were when we had that conversation several months ago. If the data
that you're looking at now were to be used in an election today, and I know it's not today, do you think Democrats could hold, no matter even narrowly, their majority?
Yes.
You would?
Yes.
So basically what you see now is a landscape in which Democrats could retain, maybe just by the slenderest of margins, but still retain their House majority.
Yeah, well, I mean, just taking your network's projections
right.
from this weekend, I know you had 209 seats as the projection, but there was a margin of error there of 13 seats.
Right.
Even by your own projection, there's a path there to retaining the 222 seats that we hold now. Like I said earlier, it's hard. It's hard work, and there's certainly, a lot of headwinds that we need to encounter here. But the fact is this: the Republicans' extreme agenda, particularly on issues of choice, and their total lack of an agenda on economic issues, has left open a space for us to win and retain our majority. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean that we are going to wake up in 71 days and no matter what we do, we're going to retain this majority. We have a lot of work to do, but it is a fact that there is a path to retaining our majority, for sure.
So I made reference to this, Tim, in the open. Pat Ryan wins, 19th District of New York, Hudson Valley. How much does one election outcome in a special election in the Hudson River Valley in New York have to do with the rest of the country? And can you name me a congressional district or two that you look at now because of what you saw on the 19th that tells you it's not only winnable but likely winnable?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what does one election tell us about the entire fall? Not that much. And I think that we have to be cognizant of the fact that this does not mean that the election's over and we've won. But I think that it's not just one election; it's all four elections that have occurred post the Dobbs ruling by the Supreme Court in New York 19, in New York 23, in Minnesota 1. Kansas, the abortion referendum, across the map, we have seen dramatic increases in Democratic performance since the Dobbs ruling. Now, Pat Ryan is an exceptional candidate, without question. But Marcus Molinaro should have had some strategic advantages in that race. He is the county executive from Dutchess County. He was able to use that base to overperform in Dutchess County over President Biden. It's just that Pat Ryan was such a strong candidate throughout the district, overperforming President Biden's numbers by such significant margins that he was able to overcome that. That is quite an achievement. And like I said, it's not the be-all, end-all, but what it does tell us is that when voters actually go out, when things happen in the real world and voters vote, Democrats are doing quite well. And I think that is as meaningful as anything else that we have. And if you're asking about other races that are similar to New York 19 special, Nevada 3 with Susie Lee, that is a race that is actually a district that's actually somewhat better for us in a state that's very pro-choice. I think that's an excellent example. She's already up on the air, defining her opponent's position on choice. I think that, basically, it is salient across the map.
Okay, very good. On Face the Nation yesterday, when I was substituting for Margaret Brennan, I asked DNC Chair Jamie Harrison about President Biden calling the GOP semi-fascist. Let's take a listen.
He has always been somebody who does what my grandfather used to do, which is speak it plain, say it plain to the American people. And what we see right now is a full frontal attack by these extreme MAGA Republicans in this country. And that extreme attack
Mr. Chairman,
is on our freedoms as a people.
Mr. Chairman, you embrace the rhetoric semi-fascism to describe the Republican Party.
Well, it's not about the embracing. It's calling what it is, what it is.
What it is, what it is. Tim, is the Republican Party you're running against through the DCCC semi-fascist?
I mean, unfortunately, there certainly are members that do embrace some semi-fascist points of view, for sure.
And is that something, when you talk about the extremism of Republicans, you're going to weave into rhetoric this campaign season?
I don't think we need to. I think that it's pretty clear that the extremist points of view that are throughout the Republican Party are, they stand alone. They stand on their own. And I think voters have clearly rejected them time and time again, and they're going to do so again in November.
Tim Persico, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.